Hi there. This is the first model from a teacher that we're going to look at that would show you how to write an 8 when it comes to this particular prompt. Now, what I'm going to discuss with you today are different aspects of voice and why they're so important in creating that 8. We know that an 8 starts with a 7, meaning it's extensively developed, very clear writing, but there's obvious strong voice, and also there is some obvious insight there in particular. You have to be able to point to the insight in order for it to bounce to an 8. So what I'm going to show you here is an essay that incorporates all the elements of voice. So the blue highlighted words are vocabulary. Originality is highlighted in gray. Insight is highlighted in yellow. Coherence is highlighted in magenta. And euphony is highlighted in green. And I will do my best to explain some of these as we go along in the essay itself. So, of course, with the template, you're going to start with an introduction. And this is where that personal narrative comes in. Personal narrative really can give you so much voice, but it definitely should be something true, even if it's not necessarily about yourself. It's about someone you know or someone you've read about. If it is about yourself, you definitely need to have specific details to make it be legit. You have to be credible when it comes to personal anecdotes, because if not, your judge is going to view that as fictional or hypothetical, and the point level will just not be the same because you just won't have the same ethos. Okay, so we're going to start with this introduction. Let's take a look. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. I was holding a sign that said, Houston, proud of its diversity. And let's notice that there's green right here. So we see a visual image right away with the word show, but this is also an example of auditory imagery because it is dialogue, and this is like a chant because you've got the exclamatory sentence here and then the ellipsis, and then it's like somebody else, it's like a call out and then a call back. And then it goes into a visual image where it really explains what's happening. I was holding a sign that said Houston, proud of its diversity on one side, and then on the back of the sign it said the only wall we need, which captioned a picture I drew of a wall which divided two words, church and state. Now the originality in that is that there's definitely a pun on the wall because it's more of a figurative wall at this point on the sign. My friend was holding a sign that said, "We are all immigrants." It was the Sunday after Trump's notorious executive order, which had been coined the travel ban. All my friends and I could think about was all the immigrants we knew, especially those of Islamic faith. The interrupter there is why I highlighted the sentence, and how the travel ban impacted them. We didn't know what to do, but we felt like we had to do something. So we made signs and we drove to the airport and we participated in a protest that was organized by a collective of resistance groups, Black Lives Matter, Pantsuit Nation, and the ACLU. Some people think that once a person is in power, so you see a specific thing is here and then we go into something general. That's why you see that highlighted as a transition. Some people think that once a person is in power, citizens should just submit to that person and his or her political team like sheep ready to be led. Okay, that's the sentence that illustrates the counter argument, which is the first part of the 3-part thesis. Now we're going to the second part. But others see real danger in this type of thinking, especially when an individual or group in power seems particularly tyrannical and or corrupt. Second part of the thesis statement has the platform. Now we have the position. I learned from this experience, notice how it refers back to the experience, the importance of airing my disagreements with public policy. The protest led to no arrests and was one of the most well-organized events I had ever been to. The police watched us closely, but the organizers had planned things so well, the police actually seemed proud and protective of us. That night, the protest grew so large that it put the George Bush International Airport at maximum capacity. I am proud of that. So you see those little interjections that are in parentheses? That's a clever way of being conversational, which is something that judges really like to see in both the synthesis and the argumentation if it's done correctly. A few weeks later, a judge ruled the travel ban unconstitutional and the executive order became void. Even so, not everyone thought we were doing something right. So I've kind of explained how this was successful, but now I'm bringing in my counter argument, which is the first body paragraph, normally according to the template. Our driver back to the parking lot was an ardent Trump supporter who said we shouldn't protest actions regarding illegal immigration. I explained to him that the travel ban was impacting legal immigrants and visitors, even people who had fought for our country, and he seemed shocked by this information. We got into a bit of a political debate, but we remained civil. Now, the reason why I have put that as an insight is because it really connects to my audience. Anytime I can show that I am capable of debate, whether it's systematic, like in a speech and debate tournament, or organic, like in this situation, that's really good because that is the heart and soul of an AP Lang test and class. The idea that you can look at both sides and make rational decisions based on the information you're presented with. And then we have another transition. In the end, he brought up a bunch of reasons why he thought we needed to just obey the executive order, but none of them really made any sense. He, for example, notice the interrupter also acting as a transition, talked about how Trump had said that he was going to send troops into Chicago to clean up crime. And I told him that I didn't understand why Trump thought that was his right or responsibility. He gave me some warped explanation of how if the governor was not doing his job, then the president should do his job for him. And I just said, well, this really has nothing to do with the protests we participated in. And no, I don't think that is how the government works. So right there you see a good debate tactic. It's just politely pointing out to the opposition that they are off topic. Now we're going to go more into the platform. Now, some people would say, so we've got our opposition being referred to, that if you have people resisting, then you have all sorts of ignorant people joining the party. I think our driver, unfortunately, fits right into the ignorant category. I highlighted ignorant there because now we're seeing some really strong cohesion. But I'm taking a risk there because I am calling my opposition ignorant. So anytime you do that to the opposition, anytime you put them down, you got to bring them right back up. So look at what comes after that. But should he just shut up and obey whoever's in power? No. He has the right to protest too, even if he is protesting or protesting. So that is an insight because basically it's saying that those rights extend to everybody, not just my side, but my opposition side too. So it's showing a concern for the opposition, and then you also see some unique sentence structure there. We have rights that can be lost so easily if we neglect to stand up for them. Then we go right into that general statement, and then we go into the specific. In the book on tyranny, now the reason why this is highlighted is because it shows, again, especially strong cohesion, which lends itself both, of course, to cohesion, but also insight. So if you go back to the thesis statement, I used the word tyrannical, and now I'm using a book that's literally called On Tyranny. Another thing I would like to point out, and you can do this in your reading notebook, is I gave the credentials of the author of this. I think it helps you remember the author, but it also makes your ethos so much stronger when you use an academic example. On tyranny, Yale professor Timothy Snyder mentions that the people directly under Hitler could have easily resisted the little things at first, but they did not question his power. The attitude was basically, who is in charge? What is he telling us to do? I guess that is what we should do. This is the same attitude I saw in the airport officials who were trying to implement the travel ban. So what you see there is some really sophisticated sentence structure. Notice the use of the colon, and then the use of questions, and then that observation and connection that the airport officials were acting very much like Hitler's people in World War II. They didn't really understand it, so they implemented it the best way they knew how, because that was the law for that brief moment in time. It took people questioning it and judges ruling that it was unconstitutional to stop it. If you don't stop tyrannical acts early, people do begin to follow a person in power rather than the highest values and laws of the land. That is why people have to be civically involved. Many people who vote and participate in civic actions don't feel completely secure with their knowledge of politics. Now, this is just bringing up another point, somewhat a point of the opposition, but the conclusion is going to deal with that point. And notice how these are very short sentences. Your most important point, if you can do it, you should have some clipped sentences around it, because they're really powerful when they're short. It does not matter. The basics still exist. We are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We are not a government of the president, for the president, and by the president. And that is highlighted in yellow because on one hand it is an insight, because it's taking a very popular saying that comes from our American history and culture, and it's flipping it around to say, hey, this is not what it is. So there's some originality there, pointing out the problem, and then it's also just clever, so it's considered an insight. Presidents are supposed to be listening to their people, all of their people. Notice that it's what we call an appositive. It's also a repetition in the sense that it's emphasizing not just a few of their people, all of their people. Then we got some transitional sentences. Politicians in general have a responsibility to uphold the law and honor their constituents. Now, right there, you've got specific, presents are specific, now going to all politicians. And we've got that blue word, constituents. If you don't know what a constituent is, please look it up, because often in AP Lang you will have prompts dealing with politics, and you can almost always use the word constituent. Participating in politics will make people more civically minded, just a restatement of the thesis, and it will help them keep their politicians in check. All right, that is all. I hope you understand how those elements of voice work together, and I hope you understand how that is an 8 rather than a 7 or 6. Thank you.